Okay, well, welcome everyone. It's wonderful to be here with you to share on the topic of letting go. It is a long-term practice to gradually develop the capacity for letting go. And so it's been informative for me to prepare the talk because letting go is not, it sounds, yeah, you just let go, but it's not that easy. It's simple, but not easy. So we're going to parse it out a little bit. I do enjoy sharing in community, and this community is here because of Phil's dedication to it. Without Phil, it wouldn't happen. So I'm going to put a plug in because Phil was asking us to create a succession plan. If you may have noticed, Phil has gray hair. And
no hair.
No hair. And we want to cultivate some younger folks who might be interested in eventually joining our organizing committee because, one day Phil and I might not show up here. So Phil would like to have this community continue after he's gone. And he even has put aside funds in his will to support it ongoing, but that's not enough. We need youth. So if you're enthusiastic and have an interest in mindfulness, part of the job that Phil does is to get the speakers organized. And so that's also like if you are in a mindfulness vein in the general community, you can contribute by recommending speakers. So yeah, all of that is part of what Phil does, and he could use some support with that. So to describe how we're going to approach the meditation this evening, just to say that letting go is one of the aspects of meditation that you can take a closer look at. And as we've talked about, it is the reason we let go is for becoming freer and happier. It is through letting go of clinging that we become happier. And in fact, Joseph Goldstein says, there is nothing whatsoever worth clinging to. And so to convince yourself of that is actually quite challenging. You just stop a moment and think of the things that you would go, don't take that away from me. It could be as simple as the car that you love, or it could be your family, or it could be your own existence. All of these things we naturally want, and we don't want them to leave us. However, you can have a fondness for those things without clinging to them. You can enjoy them and care about them without clinging to them. So we're not talking about having a neutral mind that doesn't enjoy life and that doesn't care. We're talking about being able to be present with how things are and let go of it without feeling distressed in thinking about its absence, or on the other hand side of it, wanting to push things away that we don't like. For the purpose of this talk, there's lots of ways to talk about it, but I've divided it into 3 elements that support letting go. The first is just plain old mindfulness, knowing what's present, being able to stay in presence with what's there. The second is supporting the conditions in the body and the mind that help facilitate letting go. So we probably all know there are states of mind where it's really hard to let go. If we're full of fear, if we're grasping in the terms like have a strong greed desire for something, if we are feeling very angry about something, those states of mind make it hard to let go. But there are other states of mind that we can cultivate that help us to let go. And so that is actually what I'm going to focus on tonight during the meditation, is how to pay attention to that part of our experience that supports letting go. The last part is to notice when we do release clinging, and notice the difference in the mind when clinging is present, and in contrast, notice what it's like when there isn't clinging. So I will include that in the meditation practice that I guide. And as I said in the advertisement for the talk, we are going to be practicing with letting go into 3 different things. The first I called nature, which I'll describe a little bit more during the meditation. And the second is into some form of heart quality, and I've called it kindness. And then the third is into space. So just to get you ready for what we're going to be doing. Oops. So get yourself into what you find to be a supportive posture for your meditation. Am I speaking loud enough? Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. Can you hear me?
I can now.
Okay. You want me to speak up a little bit?
No.
Okay. All right. So bring yourself into an awareness of your body sitting on the chair. And see if you can bring attention to the whole body, the body as a whole. And then particularly notice what's underneath your body, the floor, the chair. And let the buttocks and the legs drop into the chair and feel the chair responding by supporting you. And in this moment, the chair and the ground are pretty reliable. They're steady. They support the body being upright. And accept the reliability of this groundedness. This is something we generally can rely on, that there is earth, there is ground underneath us. And earth is nature, and we have an earth nature within us. We have a quality within our experience that is steady and reliable. Upright. And we know that we do come from nature through conception, birth, and we know we go back to nature when our life is over. So we are nature. And part of our nature is the life force that we can experience through our breath. Breath is nature. So bringing attention to the body breathing. And notice in particular the end part of the out breath. There's a natural letting go at the end of the out breath. Just for a second there. It's a mini letting go. And then we can consciously relax the body, inviting ease. And relaxation is also supportive of the letting go experience. And as the body and the breath support us in both being awake and easeful, we can bring attention to the heart area in the middle of the chest. And what supports letting go in The qualities that are part of this area of the body is a cultivation of any kind of well-wishing. So whatever words work for you, kindness, caring, goodwill, start by connecting with a memory, perhaps, of someone who either gave you their kindness, shared their kindness with you, or that you felt kindness between you, that there was a caring and a connection through caring. If you have someone who's easy to love in your life, it can be an animal, it can be a child. Anyone who's easy to love, you can recall that experience and allow your heart to soften. And some people respond to the words that describe some of the sensations that can come with kindness. So, warmth, radiance, and just see if you invite that description of love as warmth or radiance, light, if that supports your heart softening further. And just letting the mind rest on this feeling of warmth or kindness. And as the body, the breath, and the heart open and settle, this supports the mind opening. So invite the mind to fall open. Just imagining the mind as space, and you can connect with that through connecting with the space in this room. Feel the space all around you. Above, in front, behind, to both sides, and beneath you. And just let that space stretch beyond the roof, below the ground, beyond the walls. The mind is infinite, has no limit. And when we can have this spacious mind, we're on our way to freedom. Continue to connect with space. Some people like the phrase beyond the beyond to help support that sense of limitlessness. And at the same time, as we're allowing the mind to fall open, we're still in our bodies. So every once in a while, check in with the ground so that you stay in your body. And notice, is there any sense of peace available to you at this time? When the mind is peaceful, it's easier to let go. So now that we've cultivated the conditions in the mind that support letting go, we turn towards mindfulness. Just invite any experience that's ready to appear, just allow it to appear. Maybe a body sensation, an emotion, an image or thought. Just stay steadily present in the body, with your heart and mind open. Flexible, grounded, at ease. Whatever arises, just resting, allowing it to arise as it will, and letting it go as it wants to. And occasionally you may want to check in with the body to see if there's any tension that has arisen that you can voluntarily relax. It's not uncommon for us to be tightening in the shoulders, in the face, in the belly. So just check in once in a while and invite ease. And if something does arise and then disappears, notice the absence. And now, as we come toward the end of the meditation, bringing attention again to the heart area and choosing somebody or some buddies that you would like to share the benefits of your practice with. It could be someone you know personally, or it could be a group of people that you're concerned about. You choose, and then just radiate out your well wishes and dedicate the merit. It's called the merit of your practice, the benefit you've done your own mind and heart through practicing. You want to share it with others. So just radiating out good wishes. So take your time when you come out of a meditation and We'll come back at 7:45, so you have 10 minutes to get something to drink or use the washroom, and then chat with your neighbor. If you haven't introduced yourself to each other, then you may want to do that now. All right. It's going to be a long period of an empty chair recording. Okay. So just to review what we did in our meditation practice, we started with grounding into the earth, and that supports steadiness, the sense of something reliable, groundedness. And then we went to the body breathing and noticing the letting go in the out breath. And then we emphasized the heart quality in terms of well-wishing or kindness. And then the emphasis was on an open, spacious mind. And all of those three then supported us with our mindfulness meditation, being able to stay present and relaxed, so that when things arose, they would also have lots of space for releasing. And then I invited you also to notice absence, to notice when things had departed from the mind. So that is what we did with the meditation. And while I was preparing the talk, I made a decision to add an element to what we talk about, other than just meditation, that what we do in meditation for letting go. And I wanted to talk a little bit about conduct. So one of the things that helps our mind be peaceful is if we feel peaceful about our own behavior. So it's a very important part of the tradition in which I train, is to pay attention to how we behave, because if we're not happy with our behavior, when we sit down to meditate, it's going to bug us. So how do we train ourselves? It's not that we expect ourselves to have perfect behavior, it's that we make it an area for our practice. And this is because it does help support our search for freedom and ongoing happiness. So in the Buddhist tradition that I train in, there are 5 precepts that we can follow. They're not rules, they're trainings. So the first one is not to kill, and the second one is not to steal, avoid misusing sex, not lying, and refraining from intoxicants that cloud our mind. So pretty basic. In Christianity, there's 10. We've only got 5, so it's not quite so hard. Yeah, but they can sound kind of harsh in a way, but they're just guidelines that help us feel peaceful. And the other key ingredient is they help us have peaceful relationships. When we follow these guidelines, we tend to get along well with others. And then when we get along well with others, they feel peaceful, and then they also tend to get along well with others. So that's one way you can think about how to monitor your own conduct and how to work with your own conduct. Another way, which I think is a little bit more natural, is to think about what makes a good friend. So basically what we're doing when we work on our conduct is training ourselves to be friendly and friends with as many people as possible. Because the more people we're friendly with, the happier we will be, and the happier other people will be. So just pausing a moment and reflecting on what you might call your close friends, what qualities people that you want to let be close to you have. Basically, it begins with treating one another well. And part of it could be, say, we'll reflect back on the precepts. With my friends, I don't do the things that the precepts advised. Another way to look at it is from the positive aspects of the precepts. So instead of killing, which we might think of in terms of a friendship that we don't discourage our friends. We encourage their vitality. We encourage their success. We encourage their happiness. If they come up with an idea, we listen to them. If they're upset about something, we care and we try to support them. So authentic acceptance, warmth, interest, and caring are the expressions of nurturing in friendship. As well as listening, we want to bring ourselves forward. We can't be a full friend unless we also bring our own experience into the relationship. It'll get lopsided. So with a good friend, we're willing to be a little vulnerable, share a little bit of ourselves, dipping our toes in if we're getting to know someone until we see how it goes with that person. But part of friendliness is also opening ourselves up and sharing parts of ourselves. Generosity is another aspect of good friendship. So like Phil buys those chocolates, I think Costco, maybe, I've seen them at Costco, and the teas, and Phil brings them, or somebody else who's the moderator brings them. It's a tradition we've passed on now for about 10 years of generosity to do that. And it helps you feel connected and together. And that's partly why we decided to have the tea break after the meditation, so it gives you a bit of space for connecting with one another. Honesty rather than not lying is important for friendship. And that means being willing to share both the things we like about ourselves and our shortcomings. So probably the friends with which we will allow ourselves to become that vulnerable, that will be honest about our shortcomings, have to be pretty close friends, people we can really trust. But it is a sign of a good friendship that we can share about things that we feel vulnerable about. And of course, we're respectful with one another relating to our sexuality, which can be more complicated if you're young and single, but it's always something to pay attention to, how we express ourselves in that area of our life. And then rather than clouding the mind with intoxication, and in this case, intoxication isn't just a substance like alcohol, it's also getting intoxicated by over attention to a part of our life that may be out of proportion. So it could be like being on the computer too much, ignoring your partner and paying too much attention to YouTube, that kind of thing. Your mind can get intoxicated with searching for the next thing you're going to buy. And there's all kinds of ways we can intoxicate our mind. But what we want to commit to in a friendship is having a clear mind so that we're present with one another. Another thing about a good friendship is that it allows us to see ourselves more clearly. So things that happen in a friendship are like a mirror. So we see outcomes or consequences in our friendship that tell us something about ourselves and also may teach us something about our friend. And opportunities for learning and adjusting what we do and how we relate to one another. So the feedback in a friendship can be both implicit, just through being in the friendship, and it can be explicit, where something gets said. So within communities like this one, as people get to know each other and practice together more, and in my experience, my engagement with spiritual community is, a lot of it is online. And so I take courses, and there are teachers that I really am impressed by in the sense of their role modeling, their way they speak to people, how they're inclusive, how they're kind, how they're sensitive to what people bring up. And it's one way of learning. Oh, I'd like to be like that. I like that way of being. And so people who are role models do things that we admire. And they're not asking for us to admire them. That's the other thing. They're not fishing for you to admire them. The other thing that we can learn about is through ethical conduct. If we see other people acting ethically, then we are inspired to do it ourselves. Excuse me. And then there's the matter of the very tricky part of us, which wants to be affirmed by our relationships with others. And in the tradition I train in, we call that conceit, both in the terms of elevating ourselves, diminishing ourselves, and jostling to be at least as good as. So that's a natural human need and tendency is comparing ourselves to others and wanting to establish our position. When we meet people who seem to have no need for that, it's very inspiring that this is actually possible, that you can be generous, kind, wise, and have healthy boundaries and not seem to care if people like you or not. So a magical set of qualities that you're not fishing for being liked. Or in some cases, some people fish for being intimidating, so not liked. And over time in friendship, there can be a gradual development of like a trust between people. And there can be moments in friendships where that trust seems to be frayed. And then when that trust is frayed, then there's an opportunity to see what's going on and to deal with whatever it is that's fraying the friendship. So I thought instead of doing too much talking, I don't have a lot more to say, but I thought we could break into groups of 3. And then I'm going to give you each 3 minutes to describe. So you'll each talk for 3 minutes and describe what you value in a friendship. So I would suggest that you separate so that the 3 people are together and then there's some space, because it can be hard to hear yourselves if someone's really close to you in another group. So if you could, how many people do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 12, 1, 2. So if Phil, if you could join one of the groups, and I'll be the timekeeper. So turn into groups of 3.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, sure.
Okay, so if the person with the longest hair can start, so whoever has the longest hair is going to be the speaker. Okay, so remember, you're describing what you value in a friendship. And I will ring the bell after 3 minutes.
Does that mean we each get 1 minute?
No, each get 3 minutes.
3 minutes is way too
Are we starting?
Yes? Go ahead.
So when I talk about this, it's friendship, that's what I'm friends. People who I grew up with.
shared interests.
Historically, grew up as a kid, university. And these are people who
Honesty is interesting. But sometimes it's
Okay, so if you want to rejoin the larger group. It looked like you were being very friendly. Yeah. So if some of you have some observations of something that stood out for you during that conversation about friendship.
I was interested in having been with that before, but there was a lot of commonality in characteristics.
Yes. Can you tell us about maybe a few of those characteristics?
I think there was kindness.
Yeah.
Was part of it. Friendships growing slowly
Mm-hmm.
and not automatically. That were and common interests, yeah, that would at the beginning bring people together.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Anybody else? Yes.
We kind of boiled down to a couple of words that we felt.
You speak a little bit louder.
So I think in the end we kind of came, there was a couple of commonalities, which is commitment and dependability.
Uh-huh.
So the friends are the ones that are there in not just the good times, but the tough times. They're the ones that you can go to because you know them.
Yes, that's really important.
So we kind of keep
Yeah, so I'm for the recording, I'm going to just repeat that you said reliability and commitment were two qualities. And I've heard it said that if someone helps you move, they're a friend.
Or they like pizza.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyone else want to share something from their conversation? Or even something that just popped into your head as you're listening?
We were joking around a bit just about Facebook friends
Yes.
and, you know, the people who, the acquaintances that you have in your life, those aren't really friends.
No.
They're not in the true sense.
In the
of
true sense.
friendship, but
Yeah.
that's why it's funny when you have 1,000 people on Facebook you're connected with. Are you really friends with, you get together with those people on a regular basis? Or,
Right. Yeah. So for the recording, he just commented that there's a difference between Facebook friends and the friends in your real life that you actually see and get together with. And sometimes it's remarkable how there are some friends that you don't have to see very often, but because the relationships are long-term, you know, maybe since childhood, there's a depth of connection that doesn't require that you see them that often, but when you do, you feel very connected. Anything else?
We talked a lot about the same things. We talked about old friends. We have a lot of similarities. Respect came up. Old friends came up.
Yeah, old friends and respect.
We don't learn a lot topic, but stirred it up.
What do you think respect looks like? What are some of the things that,
Respect for yourself is actually what we ended up
yeah,
boiling it down to.
so boundaries.
Boundaries.
Yeah, because at first we were talking about honesty, but then we sort of came to see that really what it is that we value is respect for ourselves.
Yes. Yeah. So people are sharing about the importance of respect in a friendship and respect for themselves so that they are able to share their needs in the friendship and say what their limits are, I guess would be another way to put it. Anything else?
why do you think when, I don't know why I'm talking about this, but sometimes when someone introduces you to someone else, they'll say, I want you to meet my really good friend, Mitchell. Whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, not really that. I'm really not that good a friend. I'm probably a good person. And I just find that that's an interesting thing to say. Like, what friendships mean to someone is, like, to say to someone, well, this is my best friend,
Yeah.
they'll say, and I'm thinking, are we really best friends? And so just the perception of what some people
Yeah.
think of who their friends are.
What do you make of it when people do that?
I don't know, because I think I truly only have a real handful of friends now
Yeah,
that are committed to me in good and bad.
yeah,
And I used to think, you go to university, whatever, you know hundreds of people, not
yeah,
whatever, and those people, I don't think are gonna, I don't know. I don't think those are gonna be people that are gonna be at the hospital for me. Things
Yeah.
go awry or something,
yeah,
But, so I don't know, I don't get it when people introduce me as their best friend or something when
my really
we
good
don't
friend.
have that relationship at all.
And some people do that as a compliment, like a way to ease the introduction, perhaps, rather than really truly being how they feel. They want you to be liked, so they up up the description, maybe, I don't know. Or they're salesmen. I don't know. What do other people think? Any comments on that? Or has anyone else had that experience of feeling a little mystified? Poser.
Put them to the test, see if they'll help you move.
Yeah. Well, I know when we were having our first child, our neighbor had said, no, the second child, the story has to be altered here. Second child, our neighbor said, I'll look after your, 1.5-year-old when you go into labor. When the crunch came, she was not available. So we had to find someone else. Well, she had a legitimate reason, but you can't really plan for those things. So those are the kinds of things where you go, you just let me down. Yeah. We fortunately did find someone, so our daughter did not have to come to the delivery room.
It's
Yes.
something that I recognize when some really true friends, I was in the hospital for some surgery or whatever.
Yeah.
Being not so good, please let me know if there's anything I can do for you.
Yeah.
Where the other people brought things for me. They made a meal. They
Yeah.
made life easier for me. They didn't even ask me
Yeah.
what they could do for me. And I thought that was really beautiful,
Yeah.
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 And now I'm trying to be sensitive to that, not go, if there's anything I can do, give me a call. Because
Right.
most people aren't gonna call you.
Right. Yeah.
They feel
Yeah.
awkward
So
calling.
spontaneous generosity and intuition as to what's actually needed. Yeah. Makes sense. And so I also want to open it up to talking about the meditation that we did today. And you could share an experience, including challenges you had during the meditation or questions you have about the meditation we did today or your meditation practice that you do on your own. I'm going to give time to that as well. I wanted to share that a small group of us have started meeting once a month to meditate together. So on Monday, we were in Phil's living room, 5 of us meditating for about 2 hours, and then had some discussion. And it was really, really sweet to do that. So if you have a friend who likes to meditate, you might want to have them over. It does increase the energy for meditating to do it with other people. And would any of you be interested in attending a meditation retreat with us? We are thinking about planning a 1-day meditation retreat in this space. Does that interest any of you? Yeah? Yeah. Put your hand up high. Okay.
What does it look like? I kind of need to
Yeah. Well, let me
understand
count.
more.
I think there were about 8. 1, 2. Yeah. So what it looks like is we usually start. Well, Phil wanted to start at 8:45. I was suggesting 9:30. And then we go till 4. And what we do is we meditate sitting for about half an hour, and then walk for 20 minutes, half an hour, and then we just keep doing that. Plus we have some guided meditations, and we have some talks, and we teach you how to do eating meditation at lunchtime.
Questions. Individuals.
And we have time for a question and answer period.
As a group and individually.
Yes, we're gonna make that at least that was my idea. We're under discussion, but I thought private time to talk about your meditation practice. Go in to see the teacher over in that room there.
Has anyone ever gone to a meditation retreat?
I've been to your online one,
Uh,
when you had it online. I think it was during COVID. It was very fun.
who's been to a meditation retreat? Sorry, get to your
The
question.
recent one at Wildwood that we had with Fire Ahimsa,
Yes,
so that was a silent one, which was
Yeah.
really very enlightening. I think it was my first silent meditation,
yeah,
and
yeah.
It really is a wonderful opportunity to have a more dedicated time and to see what happens to your practice.
I'm fairly new at it, so.
It'd be fine because you're only going you have to put your toe into the water.
Yeah.
And it's not like you're going away for 10 days,
Right.
which would, this is the way you start. You start with what's called a non-residential, sort of half day, 3/4 day. So you get a sense of what it's like to sit and to walk. And as Leslie was saying, there's a lot of guidance that occurs through the day. And it is a great way to help to deepen your practice if you've never done it before. I remember my first meditation residential retreat I went to. The timing was unbelievable. It was a 1-day retreat, and the next day I went to Las Vegas. Talk of contrast. It was like, how did I ever plan those two together? That was a long time ago. I have a question for you, Leslie, because Leslie has approached this clinging aspect from a very interesting perspective of space and heart.
Mm-hmm.
But clinging is when the Buddha talked about suffering, clinging to greed, hatred, and delusion was the reason why we suffered. And the segue to freedom was not clinging. So this is a very, very important topic. And I just want to phrase it, and I want to ask Leslie to comment on this. I like chocolate cake. There are 3 variables there. The object of preference. Do I cling to the cake? Like chocolate cake. Do I cling to the preference of desire? Let's step back one more space. I like chocolate cake. Do we cling to the sense of self? This is very, very important. Object, preference, self. Frankly, if there is no object, no entity, no sense of autonomy that desires an object, there's no clinging. So, I'd like Leslie to comment on the fact that the true letting go for freedom, for the end of clinging, is not letting go of the chocolate cake, it's not letting go of the desire for the chocolate cake, but it is truly letting go of the sense of self that we create that has a preference for an object. And if one can let go of clinging ultimately to the sense of self, that's freedom.
Yes.
Oh, come on, they don't get off that easy. So can you comment on that perspective of the clinging?
Yeah.
And you know, it's like, I mean, that's a topic for a whole day.
Yeah.
But any sense or any little nugget that we can help people let go of clinging to self?
When your mind feels contracted or thick or uncomfortable, excited, any of those things, there's more self. So we are taking a course that we're sharing. It's called Emptiness. And one section of the course was we were supposed to notice how much of a sense of self there was in any one moment. So just pause right now and comment internally how much there is a sense of contraction or need, want, or not wanting. And that's yourself. That's your sense of self. And then any sense of ease, spaciousness, openness, well-being is relatively free of the sense of self. And so what Phil is pointing to, that the most fundamental aspect of freedom is when we are free of a sense of self. It's also the most challenging. But Phil is a highly accomplished pickleball player. He gets accomplished at whatever he does. And so I think he takes the most challenging route. And you're focusing on the sense of self as being, for him, it's the most liberating thing to pay attention to. And when you have a long-term meditation practice, you often have periods of time where one aspect of the practice is the most fruitful for you to pay attention to. So that may be a more recent development for you. I don't know if it was that way at the beginning when you first practiced. It was probably more.
No. And the reason why I bring this up is because, and Leslie's right, it's a long practice to see how we create the sense of self and the ability to let it go. I think it's important to have a map of ultimately to know where this is heading. It's not saying, oh yeah, you're going to leave here tonight and you're going to understand how you create this sense of self and let it go and I'm liberated. By no means. But I think there's value in understanding what truly is the source of your suffering. It may not resonate. I mean, I look at old journals now that I had 20 years ago, and I say to myself, oh, I'm learning all this stuff about selfing. This is all new. And there I am, I open up my journal 20 years ago, and it's all there. But there's no sense of perspective and no sense of slowly getting into it. So I just offer that to you because I think it's really important to know where you're heading with this ultimately. And that there truly is a way in this path to have freedom. And I've just sort of been experimenting with something that I'll share with you and then I'll let Leslie carry on. So, how many here know what they're going to think next? Do you know what you're going to think your next thought is, your next action is? No, like we don't. Who's thinking the thought? Interesting question, eh? And our minds, as they say, have a mind of their own. So I ask myself this when I start to get upset or my mind criticizes me. And I say, did I really think this thought? Or do I just know it? And it's an intuitive knowing that, no, of course I didn't think this thought. It just popped up in my mind. Am I just the knowing of what has been thought? So I'll leave that with you. It's an interesting thing to experiment with. Did I think this thought? Or is there just the knowing of it. Not I know it, but just the knowing of it. It's a process.
So what I would like to comment on is where I was at while Phil was talking, was I was paying attention to my attitude towards what Phil was, both towards Phil and towards what he was saying. So I'm in a stage of my practice where I'm doing a lot of cultivation of goodwill and awareness of my ability to stay attentive moment to moment. So that's another way to practice is my mind. I was actually feeling a lot of affection for Phil as he was talking. It was like, I've known him a long time, and so it was just nice to know how enthusiastic he is about his practice, and it was enjoyable to know that I was feeling open-hearted towards him. And so just checking in over and over again, because I feel a lot happier after being around someone if I've had an open heart towards them than if I've been feeling resentful or whatever. So you can practice that way. And then that checking in, am I paying attention? Am I present? And someone used the word respect. I've often used the word respect to bring myself into actually continuing to pay attention. And it's often really valuable when you're not feeling very easeful with somebody, is respect. Like, let me respect this person. At least, I don't have to like them, but at least I have to have basic respect for them. And that draws the attention forward. So there's all kinds of ways to practice, and it will change over time.
I didn't quite get what you were talking about in terms of self. It means you're not supposed to think about yourself? It's because of ego, or?
It's not that you will never get rid of a sense of self. In fact, you need a sense of self to keep yourself organized, to keep yourself able to walk from this room to that room. The self has to do it. It's that you don't cling to the sense of self. So it's different than, it's the clinging that's the problem. It's not the sense of self that's the problem. So it's,
Is that ego, or is that?
it's contracting into having to have things a certain way. The self is measuring, constantly looking around and measuring. How am I doing here? You know, am I okay? Do people like me? You know, that kind of thing. Or am I getting what I want? Am I safe enough? Some of those things are essential, like you do need to be aware of safety. You do need to make sure you've eaten and you slept. So those things are practical, but it's the clinging. It's like, I have to have it this way, or I won't be happy. Does that make any sense to you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're coming to the end, and again, never disappointed when Leslie presents. She, as I said, has a wealth of experience, and she presented a beautiful meditation. I really enjoyed that, Leslie. It was wonderful. So I'd just like to thank Leslie for presenting this evening on a very beautiful topic.